Welcome back after the second break, and that's the second half of the show where we are going to move on to a new guest in the studio, and we're going to talk to Mrs. Shiromi Masakorala, who is the Senior Manager Corporate Communications and CSR. What we are going to talk about is the most commonly heard. Everybody's into it. It's all about CSR, corporate social responsibility. But here I must emphasize that this particular company who's got 3 or 4 main taglines or slogans behind their corporate branding, like concern for people, passion for customer and innovation, and so on. We've got this company down to specially speak about the enormous amount of work that they have done in this country, not for any reason, because charity is not something that you speak of or you get glory or you try to advertise and get popularity over the media, but we've actually got them down purely because to see what they have done, to acknowledge what they have done to this country, and mainly to show you out there that there are people doing things like this, and that there is a chance for you as well to be a part of this change, to be a part of this drive in making this country the wonder of Asia. So we've got this amazing company who has done so much, especially to its stakeholders when it comes to CSR. That covers so many, but we are talking about what they have done to the community of Sri Lanka today. And to do that, we have this vibrant lady here with us. She's Mrs. Shiromi Masakorala, who is the Senior Manager, Corporate Communications and CSR for HEMA's Enriching Lives. HEMA's Enriching Lives. So we're going to talk to her about what they have done and the enormous amount of work this company has done, especially from their charity scheme, which is called Piyavara. What an enormous amount of work they have done. Before we go on to anything about Piyavara, Shiromi, would you first tell us about yourself, your career at HEMAS. How fascinating is it to be working, to be employed at HEMAS, and especially to do a job which gives you so much passion in helping people. What has your career been at HEMAS?
Well, it's a very challenging job that I do, and it's a lot of work that goes into it. And what I must say is that I'm a very one of I suppose the happiest employees at HEMAS, because there's so much good you get out of the work you do, and a lot of satisfaction. More than that, also the backing you get from your management. I report directly to the CEO and the board, and they have a lot of passion for what they do. So community investment is very serious business at HEMAS. So and we do not do this for purely publicity. We are quite silent on this, but we've done a lot of work. In my case, well, just to brief you, we have about 33 model preschools island-wide. We work with the Ministry of Child Development, and these schools are in Hambantota, from Jaffna to Badula, and all over the country. So there's a lot of traveling, a lot of coordination that goes into my work. And as a lady,
as an iron lady, I was speaking to her earlier on, and I was just amazed by the amount of traveling she does around the country. Well, of course, she always stresses the point of the support that she gets from the government officials when it comes to starting from the Gram Seva Niradhari to the AJ, everyone. But I'm telling you, it's not easy to get all these people into one mindset and go ahead with your plans. So let's continue the conversation. Shiromi, tell us. Sorry, I interrupted, but please go ahead.
So that support also is so important. Somebody has to encourage you. So you got to have a good management backing. You need your family to back you, and you need the passion to drive what you do.
Okay, Shiromi, tell us about the Piyavara scheme. Tell us about how it started. How was this initiated? Why Piyavara? What was the main reason for HEMAS to come out with this scheme? Tell us the history and how it has progressed throughout the years.
Yeah. Krishanta, being 2002, by 2002 we were doing all kind of charity work, but ad hoc, you know, used to paint bus halls or do up a hospital or something like that. But we wanted to be focused. So first thing we did was, we didn't know what the needs of the country is. So we went and met the Ministry of Social Welfare, and at that time the Children's Secretariat was there. Then they told us that early childhood development is something that a lot of people have not focused. So why don't you think of this area? And it was really going in line with us, because as Hemas, one of our biggest brands is Baby Shiromi. So we deal with infants. And when you say early childhood, from infancy the next step is early childhood.
Shiromi, if I can beg your pardon and interrupt you there, I want to ask your opinion now. You mentioned something very important. You said prior to 2002 or 3 that the charity or the CSR was all bits and pieces here and there. There are still many companies who are following the same, not so focused, you know, a little bit of sponsorship there, a little bit there, a little bit. From there you have come onto a more focused. What is, could you just tell our viewers how important it is to be focused on a particular thing, because you've got the experience of doing it? If you could explain that in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's so important to focus on one thing, because that's the impact. You create an impact, and many people will benefit. See, if you do ad hoc so many things, finally you won't get that end result. But whereas when you are focused and when you go with the needs of the country, that's definitely you get what you really look for.
Okay, so in 2002 you started this change and you were focused on. What happened thereafter?
So the reason why we selected early childhood development was, as I said, about Baby Shiromi being one of the leading baby brands. And when you say early childhood development, there's a health component involved in it. And we are also known as one of the leading healthcare companies that represent healthcare. Then also we are a Sri Lankan company. Very much at heart is our identity being Sri Lankan. So we also wanted at that time that this project we select should have an impact on our children, the country. So these are the 3 main requirements that led us to start with this the project called Piyavara, and we partnered the Ministry of Child Development and Women's Empowerment. That was a strategic partner to this whole project. I mean, without partnering the government, we would have never achieved what we have to, in the long run. So that's how we started the project.
Shiromi, once again, you mentioned that it's important to be partnered with the Child Development Authority and Women's Affairs. Did you ever, in looking back, imagine the support that you needed from these authorities and the support that you've got from them? What has the relationship been? How challenging or how practical or how friendly was it to work with these authorities?
Well, Krishanta, very good question. A lot of people think, especially in the corporate sector, oh my goodness, it's so difficult to work with government departments because there's so much bureaucracy, so much red tape, and they think that, you know, you can't get anything done. But I would say no. Right? It's how you relate to them, how you deal with them, and when they know that you are genuine, right? A lot of people go and promise the moon and the earth, saying, you know, we'll do this and that, but they don't deliver. And if you try to sort of, you know, go with the thinking, saying that, you know, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And you need to be very culture sensitive when you work with the government authorities. Right? You can't be going in a denim and a pair of t-shirts, and expect them to respect you or listen to you, or you can't be going there and trying to talk in a language that is quite alien to them. You need to understand that, and when you really develop that, cultivate that relationship, it is so easy to get anything done. And they are actually they are a bunch of people with a lot of passion. They want to work. Now I work with them on Saturdays, Sundays, Poya days.
Really?
And I'm telling you, and you know, during tsunami and during the post-war period when we were working in the refugee camps, I mean, there were days and nights we worked. And they don't ask for overtime, they don't ask for that allowance, this allowance. No, they are very, very committed. So it's amazing. It's just how you develop your relationship with them and understand them. And once you build that, Krishanta, anything is possible.
Well said, Shiromi. That's something that you and I all can learn. Something revealed, a secret of the Iron Lady and that magnificent company. Please continue, Shiromi. What happened then?
So initially, Krishanta, the ministry, the Children's Secretariat, said, okay, can you do 10 model preschools in Sri Lanka?
This was way back
in 2002.
2002. Okay.
Late 2002.
Okay.
So they selected a few districts and they said, we have some schools, can you upgrade them to model centers? And they gave the criteria. And then we worked with them together. So we discussed a few objectives. Firstly, we had to develop the infrastructure to make it a model school. We had to train teachers. We also needed to create awareness amongst the villagers, the community, the parents, and also to sustain it. We needed their support. So all this we put together. We had meetings with the divisional secretaries, we went to the kacheris, we went to the Grama Niladaris, we went to the schools, and that's how it started. So by 2003, we had set that model and it was extremely successful. So we developed this really laid back kind of schools to be model centers. And even to date, Krishanta, some of those schools are being taken as the best training centers in Sri Lanka. When foreign delegates come, ministry takes them especially to Polonnaruwa. Polonnaruwa is one of the best schools we have. And at that time, Jaffna was also given to us, and there was a peace process at that time, and we could just, with the greatest difficulty, get to Jaffna. So I remember going to Jaffna in 2002 with the ministry officials, and I was so saddened to see all these little children, about 80 children, inside this little garage, and they called it a preschool. So we decided, no, we're going to do up at least a small school with such difficult situations. We were very adamant that we will do up a school. So we got the land from the Jaffna Municipal Council in Nallur, and we built a very basic school for them. But it was not easy because we had to travel on A9.
Shiromi, we're talking about an era where the LTT had their own judicial controls, where they had their own banks, where they had their own police stations as well, where our Northeast was considered as another kingdom. How you as a woman, how challenging was it to you to go back to go to that area at that time? A bit of experience that you shared. Would you like to share with us, please?
Yes, Krishanta, I never had anything called fear.
Okay.
And I was very passionate of what we were doing, and I was very concerned for the children. So there's a checkpoint at Omante, and they used to give a hard time. And purposely, when a lady, I had another colleague of mine, two ladies with this driver, what are they doing, right? So they come and give us the English forms and say, you have to fill it up in English. So we said, no, our mother tongue is Sinhalese, we would prefer a Sinhala form. So we used to have a little argument there. They got so bored with us, we never gave in, and we were supposed to pay 2 rupees to go on that road. And I was adamant that I don't pay. So I said, no, I'm not going to pay, because see, I'm not going to do anything illegal. This is, come on, I'm going and working for your children. As a company, we are doing that for your children. And why should we pay you 2 rupees? You should pay us, right? So it was very interesting. So they were really getting very bored with us, and so we used to manage somehow or other to go past Omante checkpoint without paying the 2 rupees. And we were very frequent visitors there. And
so there would have been a stage where they gave up. And
they definitely they gave up, and every time they see us, like I traveled, say, about 10 to 12 times to Jaffna during that time. So every time they had specific people and they knew. I'm sure they would have been checking as to what we were doing. So basically, they gave up and they said, okay, you can go. But when we even went to Jaffna, I knew that we were being followed, and you have that little bit of insecurity. But then your purpose is so genuine, purpose is so sincere, I had nothing to fear. So finally, we did have some, hiccups, but we managed to put up this school, and we managed to open it also. We had a little ceremony, and they had a school till 2007, and now since we did another school during last year, and now they use the old school to as a sort of a daycare center.
Okay, fantastic.
So it was very interesting, and meeting those people in Jaffna at that time, the community.
Shiromi, I want to ask you one last question before we go on to our first break. That is, you're a person who traveled with so much of restrictions, so much of things happening around you at that time. Comparing then and now, comparing the people that you met then and now, what do you think of of the situation now? Peace.
My goodness, there's such a difference. People are so free to talk to you, because previously when I go, you know, they were scared to talk to you. They would try to avoid you, and they would answer your question and that's it. But it's so different now, you know, you feel so welcome, and you have that freedom of movement, and you can speak to people, you can go places and talk to the people and ask, what do you know, what do you want from us, how can you develop this further, what sort of support do you need from us and the government, and that kind of thing. But at that time we couldn't, our restrictions were monitored, and we were actually scared, but I and my colleague, and you know, we never showed it. We pretended to be very brave.
Okay, we're going to move on to a very short break. Once we come back, we'll be asking some more interesting questions about her experiences working with Hemas and getting involved in all these charity work. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. You're watching the BIZWEEK edition on the Roundtable. Thank you for joining me once again after the break. Joining me this evening is Shiromi Masakorala, who is the Senior Manager, Corporate Communications and CSR at Hemas, and we were talking about mainly about the Piyavara scheme that they have, the Piyavara. Let's get back on to the subject once again. Shiromi, what's you mentioning about early childhood development? This is the core of the Piyavara scheme. Let's talk about that.
Early childhood is something extremely important. In our country, a lot of people, Krishanta, doesn't understand the importance of this. When you say early childhood development, we talk of from the conception to the first 8 years of life of a human being. This is the time a person's, you know, basically the personality is developed during that time. So you talk about the holistic development of a child. So it's the health, the nutrition, the cognitive development, the motor development, then you have the language development, then you have the socialization, all these things start at this age. So it's extremely important, give the right care, do the right thing with children at this age. But in our country, a lot of people think that, you know,
oh, there's time.
There's time. And when it especially comes to preschool education, people think it is reading and writing, which is the exact opposite thing. You don't teach reading and writing for those children.
It's motor sense.
It's like this motor, the sensory, you know, you have to develop those things, and the language skills, listening to somebody, you know, how to work, get around with your peers, socializing, you know, those values, everything is inculcated during this time. It's not reading and writing. Reading and writing comes later. Like actually a preschool is a sort of a kind of a bridge between a primary school and the preschool education. But in our country, parents insist that they do homework at this age. But it is a time that children learn through experiment. They do all kinds of activities and they learn. And that's how concepts are learned. And if you don't get the right concept, right, 1 and 1 is 2. You can, you know, like a parrot, you can repeat 1 and 1 is 2. But you need to understand the concept of what is 1 and 1. So children do all kinds of activities. There's I can just relate this story to you. There was this particular preschool, and this baby was making 2 compitus. So the teacher said, you know, now this is 1 and this is 1, so 1 and 1 is 2. The little kid said, no, it's not 2. I'll show you. And he took 1 compitu and put on top of another and said 1 and 1 is 1. right? See the kind of thinking. Now, if you ridicule that child, you know, it can affect that child's whole life. So it's a very intelligent way of doing things.
Yeah.
You know, in I think mathematics you discuss this in later classes, but this is the child's thinking. So a lot of parents, like, you know, they want their child to basically memorize things. Okay, my child can count up to 100. My child knows the alphabet. It's not learning the alphabet or counting. It's the concept whether your child has understood. So how they learn is through activity at this stage. It's extremely important. And also our parents have the tendency to sort of, you know, do everything for your child. When the child is trying to put the pair of shoes on or you know, they're trying to do something independently, no, you can't, let me help you out, which is the exact wrong thing that you do. You know, you tell the child, my God, you're growing up, so you can now do things by yourself. Encourage them. Let them make decisions, certain decisions, not everything, I mean little decisions, and admire them. So you build personality. You know, all these later on psychological problems, all kinds of complications in life starts with this early stage, the experience, the foundation. So this is an extremely important area. So in preschools play a vital role in this.
So this is why Piyavara was based.
So that's how Piyavara came into light. Especially we are going with preschools because we have the penetration to this age group of 3 to 5 and the young parents, so we can do a lot of awareness and so on. So we have a few objectives under this program. We have infrastructure development, then we have the teacher training programs, then we have parent-teacher associations and awareness programs. Then we also have for sort of special need children to, you know, empower them, and we have a very special thing that is during disasters, man-made or natural or whatever, how do we intervene? And also we do sort of child protection work with the Sri Lanka police in curtailing child abuse. So there are many programs under this. At present, Krishanta, we operate 33 model preschools. This is of course in the Children's Secretariat at the Ministry of Child Development. All these schools, we have to think of sustainability. When we build, we come into agreements with the municipalities or the Pradeshi Sabhas. This early childhood development preschools is a devolved subject. You have the central government, then you have the local councils and the Pradeshi Sabhas. It's managed by them. So we always go and work with these Pradeshi Sabhas or the local councils with the ministry. We have an agreement with them, and it's very clear as to what HEMA's role is, what the municipality or the Pradesh Sabha role is, and what the ministry's role is. And then we have continuous monitoring. Now, as I said, we upgraded about 10 to 13 schools to be to the model schools prior to the tsunami. Then came the tsunami.
What was the role of HEMA's when the tsunami strike in 2004?
Yeah, at that time I remember the government asking the private sector to, you know, come in and help. So they were talking about infrastructure development, road development and so on. So at that time we said no, we have already with the government, with the line ministry working on early childhood development, especially small children. Let us look into that. So at that time we got permission and the government said please go ahead. So myself with the Ministry of Child Development, we all went all over the country trying to collect statistics as to how many schools were destroyed, what are the status of these children. So we did a whole collection of data, and we found that there are about 42,000 kids in refugee camps and about 150 schools totally washed off, and so many other damages. And initially we had a discussion. The first thing was we set up temporary preschools and play areas in identified makeshift camps. That was the largest makeshift camps. That was in Ampara and Southern Province. Now in these camps we got the teachers trained. The teachers they were from the community, they were living in those camps. Actually they had teachers. We got the Colombo University to come in to help how to, you know, help children with trauma. Then we provided all the stationery, the bags and the infrastructure required for a preschool inside these camps. The main thing was the play areas. We set up play areas using whatever material available. But Krishanta, nothing comes if you just give anything free.
That's the tendency.
People don't
seem to appreciate it.
And they really don't care. So we didn't want to make that mistake. What we did is, even within the makeshift camps, we got the community involved. So let's make the play area together. So they were part of it, and there was a sense of belonging. So that play area, the preschool, was taken care by the community. They didn't damage it. Because I saw in some of the makeshift camps, you know, whatever the government provides, you know, so who cares kind of thing, you know, they tend to break, they tend to destroy, and their mindset was also, you know, of course you need to understand their situation, there's a lot of frustration. But in this case, they were very much involved because it's to do with children, their families, there's a lot of idle time. So in the makeshift camp, this became a real favorite place for the children.
Shiromi, I must interrupt. From there, now we're talking about one particular aspect, the tsunami, and then later on, at the peak of the war, when most of the areas were recaptured by the government forces, we had camps which were arranged for the people to resettle until everything was over. Were there any involvement with HEMAs in areas of this as well?
Yes. First thing is the ministry movement, actually prior to the war. By February, the government was getting ready, and we thought there would be refugees coming in. So the Manic Farm relief villages were set up. So in March, we went with the ministry and we set up preschools and play areas there. And then by May, you know, there's a huge influx and there's a lot of people, and we had about 11,000 children approximately in all the 7 zones. So we set up the preschool, and that is the preschool, Krishanta, everybody saw on TV. All the UN dignitaries, all the state visits, everybody went to that school, and all those play areas were set up by us. But we never, you know, label them as HEMAs. And
Shiromi, you mentioned about your #1 product in childcare being baby Shiromi. Did you ever, at least in any of these places, at least give a brochure to say that, you know, use our product by any chance?
No, Prashanta, this is not our policy. Our management is very, very, you know, clear as to what we do. We don't commercialize our community investment because we have gone with very genuine interest and genuine sincerity. We don't want to commercialize what we do for our society and children. So actually, a lot of people used to ask, my goodness, that's a fantastic little school in that situation. Why don't you all put up a board? But we were not interested in putting up boards there. But we wanted to make a difference in their lives, and we did, Krishanta. I'm very happy. That's what I said, you know, I'm the happiest person doing a wonderful job. In the sense, at least for me, because I feel so happy that, you know, you get something else for the company also. I know everybody is so involved in it.
Actually, I'm one of the happiest people to get you down to the studio and ask you about so much of things that you have done throughout the years, your company, enriching lives, focused mainly on development of community. You've done so many, starting with the preschool concept with Pievara, then further extending it to the tsunami, how you had the camps and how you still kept on the education sector going on, then thereafter even in the Northeast, and so much of work you've done. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I'm sure we can talk for hours and hours and hours. So much of experience in you, so much of knowledge in doing this, but unfortunately we have to say time's up, and we got to move to the studio. Well, let me thank you sincerely for taking your time off, being here and sharing your experiences, true to the fact you are an Iron Lady. So all the best to you, and we wish you and your company all the best in all the future endeavors that you do with the children of this country. Thank you very much, Shiromi. Well, with that, we're moving on to the last segment of the show, which is going to be the stock market update. We'll be having a look at that as well, what's been happening in the stock market within the last week. And thereafter, we will also have a look at the forex rates, how the currencies have been going up and down. Aussie's pretty high these days, so we'll have a look at that as well. And with that, we say goodbye until we see you again with another edition of the BIZWEEK, another interesting topic just like this one on the BIZWEEK at the round table. Take care and bye-bye.